Hi, everybody, and thank you for joining today's webinar. My name is Dina Otero, and we will be starting momentarily. Just a couple housekeeping items. We will be running a Q&A session after the presentations, so please submit your questions in the chat box on the bottom left-hand side of your screen. Additionally, the recording will be available after the webinar, so please stay tuned for that. So let's get started. For those of you who don't know Confirmit, we enable organizations to develop and implement voice of the customer, employee engagement, and market research programs. Confirmit solutions are the most secure, reliable, and scalable in the world and provide technology and expertise that deliver high ROI to leading companies across a variety of industries. Today we are joined by Reginald Chapman and Stacy Neville. As Director of Customer Experience at SanDisk, Reginald leads a team responsible for developing and executing a B2B global customer loyalty strategy for retailers, partners, and customers. In partnership with Confirmit, Reginald developed the VOC program from the ground up, put in place a governance model for decision-making and oversight, and launched a customer experience community for employee engagement. He's also responsible for managing a portfolio of improvement projects based on key drivers tied to customer experience metrics. Stacy Neville is a seasoned engagement management professional with experience managing employee and customer loyalty programs from both the client and vendor side of the business. Stacy is an expert in the linkage between VOC, VOE, and operational metrics to positively impact customer loyalty and product usability. She has worked on a series of consulting engagements to design and manage performance teams in their quest to better understand their employees and their customer delivery strategy. So with that, I'd like to pass it on to Reginald Chapman.
Thank you very much, Dina, and I appreciate the invitation to be here with everyone today. Today, what I really want to share with everyone is a little bit of the SanDisk journey in terms of deploying the enterprise social network and why I believe it's important for the success of your programs at your companies as well. First, a little bit about SanDisk, the proverbial commercial here. We are the leader in flash memory storage. Without getting into all of the details here, suffice to say that we are the top supplier to essentially, I venture to guess that the handset in your hands and with your mobile phones, that the flash memory there is provided by SanDisk. You're probably very familiar with the brand if you go into a Best Buy or a Costco or otherwise for your other mobile devices and your cameras and the like. But bottom line is that we are also moving into the enterprise space as well. So in all three spaces, whether it's retail or whether it's with your handset devices and laptops and iPads and so forth, and or even in the enterprise, SanDisk is a leading supplier in the flash memory industry. When SanDisk brought me on, actually, this would be about 2.5 years ago. We're really starting from scratch in terms of developing the program overall. And one of the first things I had to do was try to establish a way for us to be able to converse about customer experience and what it was all about and what it meant. And what I found is that there was one key word that essentially we wanted to build a program around, and that was trust. We wanted to find a way to build a sense of trust both internally between employees, especially between corporate employees in the field, but obviously much more importantly, we wanted to build a sense of trust between our customers and SanDisk. And this is specifically on the B2B side. Again, with our enterprise and with OEMs are the ones that we're really focusing this effort around. And so I had to develop something to communicate something simple that says, listen, if we're going to be able to develop a sense of trust, if we're able to improve customer experience and drive loyalty, that it will pay off. And here we are 2.5 years later with a great deal of investment, and some of those results are beginning to show themselves now. A little bit about my partnership with Confirmit. As you can imagine, the first couple of months actually on the job, one of the things I had to do was to find a partner, someone that I knew that could work to make sure that we were not only designing and developing a way of collecting additional feedback, but also could actually help us understand how to analyze it and what to do when we got the feedback. And so this is essentially just real quick how we designed it. It's based around the fact that SanDisk at the time was and continues to be a leader when it comes to product. But again, the thing I really had to communicate to everyone is that at any one particular point in time, product can only take you so far, meaning that there will always be competition, someone who has a better product or a faster product or maybe even a less expensive product that does the exact same thing, because the competition will leapfrog you at particular points in time. And so what maintains loyalty, what maintains a sense of connectivity to your customers such that they will stay with you through the thick and thin, is a sense that you care about them in all facets of the experience, whether it's, again, with sales or order management or tech support. That is key, that we begin to talk like that and understand that customers care about the complete experience. And Confirmit was there in the beginning to help us design the survey, to help begin to analyze the results and what they mean, and then begin to help us say, listen, here are the key actions that we need to take if we're going to be better. And so, if it wasn't for Confirmit, again, we'd really be struggling with something probably homegrown, and I'm glad that Confirmit is a partner of ours. So let's get into it. First of all, what is an enterprise social network? Most of you obviously are familiar with your social networks, that being Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram and every sort of other new application that comes along that line. And so one of the things that we discovered very early on was that being a global company, we were not going to be able to communicate with our employees very well if we were not able to adopt something that fit into both their work and lifestyle in such a manner that we could communicate with them and get them information in a timely manner that they could act upon it when it came to customer experience. And so when you take a look at what we had to do here is, in terms from a definition standpoint here, is that social media is obviously the way that people work and live and work on essentially in their daily lives. And so being able to deploy an enterprise social network where we could connect individuals with similar business interests was really key, right, around particular topics. And for us, obviously, it was around customer experience. So we did use a platform that was internal, right? We had an internal internet software. We had a little bit of a website that we started out with. And then what we did is we wrapped the website around the social network. And I'm going to get to that in a moment, because it allows us to not only have the power of the complete infrastructure, but again, it gave us the ability to do other things from a social standpoint that we otherwise would not have been able to do. But backing up just a little bit here, how does it fit in? We have something called, our project is called Q3. And Q3 for us is meant to find a way to increase the level of customer focus, customer centricity, as you might, for all of our employees. And so one of the things that we have to find, again, another way to communicate in a way that made sense. And so for us, we wanted to make sure that we did three things. That first, we need to make sure that we had employee events offline to be able to generate a sense of excitement about what we were doing with our customers and what could employees do to improve the customer experience. Second phase of that was, okay, now that we have our employees connected, let's make sure that we have some customer events, things like customer appreciation forums, things like what we call customer insight sessions, where we have customers actually come to our campus and give talks. They could talk about the use of their technology. They could talk about what sort of business challenges that they have. And so we would have employees attend those sessions and understand exactly what it was like to walk in the customer's shoes. So now you have these couple of offline events that are happening that are internal only, and then those that are focused on the customer. But to be able to connect that together and make sure that, folks who cannot be at the physical events and individuals who really wanted to continue to contribute between events, we wanted to glue everyone together using our enterprise social network. And so, again, we created something called our customer experience community. That is, again, is a combination of our website that also wraps around the enterprise social network, as we'll call it. And so that's really what our program is all about. That puts it in context, that our enterprise social network is not being used sort of as a standalone. It is part of a strategy to educate, engage, and empower our employees, because if we're able to do that, then the goal here is such that employees will begin to understand fully what it's like to be our customer and be able to be a little bit more sensitive to the issues and the concerns that they may have and actually make changes in the way that we do business. So here's what it looks like. Some of the screenshots are copy and paste screenshots. You'll see these. Some of these screenshots you'll be able to tell that have been edited here, because there's some information we're not able to share. But nevertheless, we wanted to give you a sense of what it looks like. And again, as you can see, there's a little bit of a wrapper here in terms of what the website looks like internally. And we want to simplify things. At first, quite frankly, we started out with sort of a traditional website, lots of text, lots of written things, and if you wanted to, learn something, you'd click here and it would take you to another, one-page paragraph or perhaps a long video. And so the structure of it wasn't as good as we wanted it to be. And this is actually our sort of version 2 here. And we want to simplify it. And so the question is, for the employees, what is it that we want them to do? And it really boils down to 3 things. We want them to learn, to share, and to do. And what that means is sharing is all about understanding exactly what our customers' concerns and issues are and what is it like, right? What is their journey? Sharing, again, is saying, okay, now that we have information, right, what can we do to make sure that information goes back and forth to as many employees as possible on a global basis? And then the key there is, okay, now that we have that, what do we do about it? How can we make our customers' experience better? So learn, share, do is what we use to as sort of our catchphrase there. So we built a community around that. Learn. This one is, again, this is some information. If you go here, some information that we have, right? And if you're able to click through some of these icons, the first thing you will be able to see are the customer scores for, again, whether it's technical support or whether it's a product or sales engagement or order management. You can see very detailed information. Again, all this information is provided through the custom SAT platform that we use with Confirmit. And so where you're able to go in, you're not only able to see for your customer, you're actually able to sort of aggregate it for a region, for theater, for a set of customers, whether it's enterprise or commercial, or mobile and connected customers. And so that's really key because you can get a level of detail that helps you figure out, oh, geez, here's something there's something I can do about that. Perhaps it's an order management issue that they didn't know about. One of the things, as you all know, that brings any content to life is not just the scores, but the customer comments. This happens all the time, especially with executive presentations. It's one thing when you're saying that you scored X, maybe it's 7 out of 10 on that, and a 6 out of 10 on that, and 9 out of 10 on this other metric. But when you provide the verbatim, that's when you really begin to find out. You sort of bring the information to light, and that's what we do here as well on our within the community. Product feedback just gets into very specific, particular SKUs and line items about what customers feel about very specific items. And then finally we have a loyalty index where we're able to show where customers actually fit. And actually, I'm going to be showing that in a second. I think the key here is not necessarily what the data is per se. It's the fact that this information was never available to employees before. They had no clue. Employees have no idea what our customers were thinking, and if you had to poll them, I'd venture to say half our customers didn't even know who our top 10 customers were. And so this begins to raise a level of awareness that really wasn't there before. This is just a screen snap of what the customer verbatim looks like. We have screens and screens of this, and it's categorized by whether or not they're retailers or if they are OEM customers. Loyalty index, again, if there are users here of the platform, you will recognize this particular one where you can sort of see exactly where your customers fit overall, and whether you're using this or whether you're using NPS or any other metric, that's not really important. What's important here is that, again, we are sharing information that employees were not able to see before. And again, through using the power of the Confirmit platform to make sure we're able to capture and report the right information, we're bringing it to the forefront. And this is all captured within our customer experience community where everybody can see it. It's around the globe. So raising employees' awareness about the information and what customers think about us, that's just one step. What we have now is, okay, now we have to figure out a way to share this information, to share additional information across the board. And so one of the things that in our sort of the share section of our community, we do have additional information around the key performance indicators. We have some additional videos where we have executives who actually, they'll film 1 or 2 minutes from their offices and talk about the latest topic, the latest issue. Perhaps they will come on board and say, here's my experience at a particular customer, here's what they had to say. Here's also a place where we are trying to create a connection, a stronger connection between our field employees and sales folks in particular and employees. And then we also have a way of making sure that the field employees understand what the corporate employees are also saying about the issues or concerns that they have to try to improve customer experience. But right in the middle of all of that is really the guts of the program here. Again, this is the social part of the social network. So what we have, and again, it's maybe not as clear as you might like here, but here is a screen capture of what it looks like for us. You'll kind of see over on the far right here a place where you can post different announcements, right, to your entire community. You can also see who your followers are or individuals who are the top contributors. Right on the left-hand side, you're able to see who the owners are and do some administrative tasks. But right in the middle is where the conversation is. And typically what happens is, let's just say that we will post and say, let's just say Best Buy is one of our top customers, and we will say, listen, here's some feedback we got from Best Buy. Perhaps it was positive. They said that this individual did a great job, and we'll get that posted out there. And what will happen is we'll have people ask questions. How did that happen? What did you do? What was important? To that engagement. And it's a way, again, of having conversation that goes back and forth about very specific individuals, very specific actions or things that were done. But here's what is really key. Another good example is we had one of our senior sales executives who was sitting in a meeting in China at one of our top OEMs, and we won an award. And immediately he jumps online and he posts, hey, listen, he took a picture of it. He posted online, here's an award that we won. And so by doing that immediately, 5,000 employees immediately know that we won it. Before it would have, they had to come back, give it to our PR department. They'd have to put together some release, and they'd have to go on our website, and maybe an email would come out. I mean, we're talking maybe 2 weeks later. But he's sitting in a meeting. He's able to do that immediately. And so therefore, it generates a sense of pride, a sense of ownership, and a sense of connectedness to our customers that we really didn't have before. And so that's really what it's all about. It's about bringing information very quickly to all employees at the same time, and allows everyone to have a degree of connectedness and information sharing that, again, wasn't there before. And if you're able to share additional information like that in that way, then your employees, the level of their knowledge increases, and then thus the level of their engagement. So this is really, really key to the program, is that we have a platform that allows us to do this. But at the end of the day, none of this matters if we're not able to change the way that we do business, change the way that we do some things, whether it's people, process, or tools, to make it easier and better for our customers to do business with SanDisk. Very, very critical. And so on the do side here, we have a few things. Now, again, I'll show just a couple items. We have now implemented a way for us to actually send thank you notes. And just a general employee can come on board and say, listen, I just want to say, I want to thank a customer for we actually provide them the names of individuals who have, perhaps they've called us, they have an issue on support lines, and say, hey, thank you, right? So we have just a regular employee, by connecting them to a real person, is able, again, to increase the level of connectedness. The high five, I'll talk about that in a second. What else can I do? That's another way, actually sub-portal within our application for conversation, where we can talk about what else can we do. So we're soliciting ideas. We're saying, listen, it's not enough for us to tell you that we need to fix this problem or that problem. What are you actually already doing that you want to share with the general employee base? And so we have a sub-portal within that to do that as well. But at the end of the day, key to that is that we want to make sure that people are taking action. Here's an example here of just what we have now. This is actually a little bit of our dated information in terms of some key actions we're taking. Again, this comes out of not only the collection of the data, but analysis of the data. We're actually able to say, okay, for the 4 categories, what are the top 4 issues that we need to work on? And again, by posting this information, by talking about exactly the key issues that need to be addressed, we're actually then able to bring that back onto the share side and have conversations about that, right? And let's just say we're talking about, I don't know, under the sales, if we're talking about contracts. So immediately, if someone asks a question, what can we do? Who's doing what? Who's working on fixing a, I don't know, CRM issue related to trying to get a contract approved? That conversation happens immediately. The portal gets energized, and people start sharing ideas and concepts and thoughts and saying, hey, listen, I've got that. Here's what I'm doing about it. And so that person is working the issue, doesn't now have to send out, another a couple of hundred emails, right? By posting what they're doing online for everyone to see, even the folks in the field and who are dealing with those accounts that may have a particular issue, they're then able to use that information right away in the field. And so, again, this brings new power and new connectedness and speed to information flow that we didn't otherwise have. One thing we've also done, this is why I keep framing it as a community, is that the social network is really, again, the heart of our community, right? Because without that, there's really no sense of connectedness. It's just simply a website. But there are applications on our website, our internet, I should say, that we have brought into the community, and one of which is a corporate program we call High Five, and that allows you to go in, and if someone has done a great job on anything, you can say, listen, I want to recognize Joe Burketta because he has done X, Y, Z, and you fill it out. It takes you about 3 minutes. You hit send, and not only does it go to that individual, again, as a virtual high five, it also goes to that individual's functional vice president. So it gets immediate recognition, and it's something that people really, really appreciate. But anyway, what we have done within the community is say, listen, in addition to what their day jobs may be, what have you done to increase or improve customer experience? What have you done to go out of your way, something extraordinary? And so we want the field in particular to be able to recognize those individuals. And this happens all the time. They may say, thank you for Stacy for helping us to close on pricing faster than we might otherwise. She spent another 20 minutes after hours making sure it happened. Or thank you for a shipping depot in Shanghai. Thank you very much for being able to improve the speed at which those shipments went out, right? And you call out an individual's name, and again, it goes to individuals to that individual as well as to the entire management chain recognizing them. So by doing this, by providing a sense of here's how we want you to recognize individuals, again, what gets rewarded gets done. And again, this is all to promote the sense that everybody can do something to improve the customer experience. And so by finding a way to recognize them, especially through your peers, this helps a great deal. Finally, with regard to the community, this is the mobile connectivity. So again, especially in the field, this is very, very important that the account managers in particular are able to make notes and to send out information or to make announcements. And so we have that capability. And there's an app that now has actually been. Before it was sort of a nice, cool thing that some people had and some people use, and so now just literally yesterday, our SVP of Sales sent an email out and said every account manager will download this app. Everyone will use this. Everyone will provide updates. This will become part of our business process, and so therefore it's something that we are actually seeing obviously a higher degree of adoption, and look forward to seeing the content that is going to be coming into the community that allows employees to have a greater sense of connectedness going forward. Barriers to deployment, and so this is, I think some of you may have these slides later, so I won't get into all these bullets. I will say that, again, this was a third-party source. One of the things that we did, I actually had my first boss was concerned about was, geez, can we share this information? And so, because sometimes when you're inside a company, you're not exactly sure if information that you're sharing, is it public or not public, et cetera. And so one of the things we did, we just started slow, right? We just made sure that we shared little bits of information here and there. And then once the culture became sort of acclimated to being able to share information that you've won an award or that there's an issue or that there's a problem and not be concerned about whether or not it will be found out from the outside, we find that people use this information in a very confidential manner. and are able to have very constructive conversations and solve problems in real time. Whereas otherwise, just keeping this information close to vest really was not providing a sense of engagement with the customers and our employees in the field. So that's highlighted as the number one issue here, and I can say that was something we experienced as well. Again, key considerations and advice, I think, again, establishing a business case, that's obvious. Piloting a project if you're going to be launching this and you haven't done this before. Executive buy-in and participation is critical. Again, we've got our CEO who posts on a regular basis. He not only does that, but he's also, he actually, goes and just watches and listens what people are saying and talking about. And then once he posts every now and then, word gets out that, oh, hey, listen, the CEO is participating. Real quick, one quick story. I have what's called a customer experience core team, and that's cross-functional in nature, where we're responsible for the entire program. And so my team had already been essentially built out, but I actually got a note from the CEO who, through my boss, saying, hey, listen, make sure you add John to ask him to join the customer experience core team. And I go, why did you ask him John? I think he's in risk management. I'm not even sure why he would be chosen. He goes, well, you know what? Sanjay saw that he posts a lot of good information on Pulse. So here's someone who's actually volunteered by the CEO for a job, per se, because he participated very heavily on what we call, and by the way, Pulse is what we call for the general population, our enterprise social network as well. So anyway, just wanted to share that with you, that it is important that you secure executive buy-in, or really this thing really won't get off the ground. Then finally, connect it with the offline events, as I referred to earlier. And so that really is it. Adina, I know I've gone through this content pretty quickly, but whether now or later, if we want to take questions, I'll be glad to field those.
Thank you, Reginald. That was very informative. We will do questions at the end of the presentation. So now I'd like to introduce Stacey Neville.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Reginald. I think we're going to see a lot of parallels to what we're discussing, or what I'm going to be discussing, and what Reginald just shared with you. Okay, so we're going to talk about engaging employees to deliver your VOC strategy. And we all know that an engaged employee base is critical to developing an effective customer experience program, because their interactions help set the tone for the service that we're delivering through their entire journey in through our organization. And they have a wealth of knowledge about our customers, what they like, what they don't like, and the barriers that exist to presenting that. So here is a picture of a traffic officer, or rather a traffic enforcer, as his jacket says, in the Philippines. He's become a little bit of a YouTube sensation. I apologize for not being able to bring up the video for you. But he's become a bit of a YouTube sensation, being known for his dance moves, which on YouTube they've actually set to, I think, Michael Jackson's Billie Jean, as he keeps the traffic flowing through the streets and keeps pedestrians safe. And I think as VOC professionals, sometimes this is what we feel like. So everyone in our organization may have their own agenda. They may seem clear about where they're going and where they need to go, and they can get there as long as everyone else gets out of their way. But this is where we step in, and we're trying to ensure that our customers, their issues and their concerns do not fall victim to one of these cars, or a car running rampant. We want to make sure that we're steering everyone where they need to go. So as VOC professionals, we're all just as talented as this dancing individual, but we're one person. And I think that all of us can see that it would be great if we can get the entire organization aligned so that we can stop dancing and then hopefully focus on what's important. So often, when we try to step in and help our employees and our customers navigate the highways and the byways of our organizations, it often feels like people are on their own path and they're all going in different directions, which sometimes can be okay because we take different paths to get to some of the same places. But what if we could employ a few techniques to engage our employees to move together, move in the same direction, and hopefully towards a common goal with a shared vision of our VOC strategy? So what do you think some of the benefits would be of an engaged workforce with a shared vision of the strategy. A recent Gallup study found that 67% of engaged employees advocated for their companies versus only 3% of those who considered themselves to be disengaged. A Towers-Watson study indicated that 84% of highly engaged employees felt they could positively impact the company's product quality versus only 31% of the disengaged. And finally, CIPD, or Chartered Institute of Personal Development, found that 70% of engaged employees felt that they understood their customers' needs, as opposed to only 17% of non-engaged employees. And I think that is one that can resonate with us as VOC, customer experience professionals. What we're trying to do often is understand the customer needs. So with that, and being armed with the knowledge that engaged employees do in fact make a huge difference, let's walk through some tools and some techniques and examples of program elements that will engage our employees throughout our VOC process and form to maintain those engagement levels and empower our employee staff to feel like customer experience or voice of the customer team members. Or in light of the recent Super Bowl win in Seattle, get employees to be that 12th man on our CX team. So lots of organizations have plenty of people who are really passionate about customer experience, but often we're sitting in our own separate cars. We're shooting down the roadway in our own cars. You've got your different levels, your functional leads, frontline employees, perhaps those who work in product or marketing, and they're all focused on what they need to get done. And perhaps they're feeling like VOC is not in my objective, or no one's asked for my opinion, or I'd like to help, but I have these other priorities. What we need is a way to get people out of those silos and hopefully get them out of their cars and facilitate ways that they can work together, communicate effectively, and break down any barriers that may exist. So we're going to talk about some ways that we engage in the VOC process and in the entire VOC process. And one of the first ways you can do so, and actually Reginald just brought this one up, is involving cross-functional and multi-level individuals on your core program team. This is an example of a governance structure where you would have a steering group, a core program team, executive sponsorship, and you're also pulling in functional leads from areas of your business and customer experience champions throughout your business. Reginald just referenced an individual being nominated to the team by the CEO based on how vocal they were about VOC, about the process, about the strategy. And that is an excellent way to identify the champions in your organization and get them involved in the VOC process from the beginning. Once we've got those individuals on our teams, named, placed on our teams, we want to make sure that we're using them effectively through all the steps, especially when it comes to building our program. For those programs that are just getting started, or those that are maybe stepping back in time to do some work like customer journey mapping, use those individuals in the process to build your customer journey map. So this is a simple model of a customer journey map, but it's a good example to show the different levels, the different touch points that your customers may go through. So it's another part of our VOC vision, and it's a way that we can work with employees at multi-levels, at multi-functions to make sure we understand what that journey looks like. So take that same team, that same governance structure, especially those in the front line who probably have a very good understanding of what the journey looks like from the customer perspective, and look to develop a shared roadmap, a common vision and understanding of the landscape and the different ways that we all can get to our shared destination. Next, I have an example of a journey map that's in progress. This is an example of a Virgin Media journey map. You'll see this is huge, but this is a work in progress where employees are mapping out the steps in a big, huge, on-the-wall fashion, just getting underway. And they're mapping their entire customer journey. Many of us will bite this off, take smaller pieces, take a business line or a smaller group to understand what the journey is. But this is definitely a good way to involve your employee base and involve those CX champions that you may identify. So the second step that we want to go through is informing our employees to engage them. So what better place to start than actually sharing the roadmap that we came up with? A roadmap should always be developed from the customer perspective, but it should be shared and socialized with your organization, with your champions, your leaders, everyone within the organization. You want to make sure that that map is put through its paces in your organization and that it actually truly represents the real customer journey and that everyone has a chance to give input in that. That will help engage people across functions within your organization because they'll see where they relate to a customer's journey as they move through the different touch points. So whatever we call our process, we want to make sure that employees have the opportunity to help refine the journey map going forward and give their opinions. And then as you go through this, don't forget to highlight the best practices and the areas that are going well. So across our organizations, we will, once we do this, we'll have, excuse me, we'll have people who have a shared understanding of where we're headed, the direction we're going, almost like a map. They'll have a good understanding of the routes we're taking to get there, the routes that our customers take to get to their end journey, and if they happen to go back into those silos, which we're constantly trying to break down, they will have this roadmap that will help them make the right decisions for their part of the organization. So also within informing to engage, we want to make sure that we are sharing program communication. So this is another point that I think Reginald touched on, which is the usage of our pre-communications and senior execs in the messaging that we're, of our program, of our strategy, and pushing that throughout our organization. So when you have a network, here we talk about an intranet, a social network. When you have a network where your CEO is commenting and viewing and involved, that does spread through an organization, and it does foster the type of environment that we're trying to create, an engaged environment. Your CEO is engaged, and therefore people want to emulate that. So some examples of how we would engage through program communication would be, as we say here, one, through the pre-communication process. So make sure that's coming from our executives, that they have an involvement in a say, that we're sharing the program scheduling. Communicate what's coming, what's going to happen when things start. I think many of us can understand that one of the worst things we can do, or one of the ways to lower engagement, is to have our employees find out what's going on internally to our company from external sources. So you don't want your customers telling your employees about your new VOC initiatives, et cetera. We want to be able to give our employees and empower our employees to share that information with their customers and share that information with one another before it makes it external to our company. We also want to look at training on the VOC process. So we want to embed that, if possible, in the onboarding process. If our VOC process, our strategy, has executive involvement, like we always suggest, is a top priority of the organization, then we want to make sure, if it's an executive-sponsored initiative, we want to make sure that we push to train all employees on our strategies and our goals. And then we can reinforce that through things like videos and posters and other paraphernalia throughout the organization to push our VOC strategy. furthering the engagement of our employees. Finally, as Reginald just showed us, use technology to share the results and actions. We do it in our everyday lives all the time. Why not use it in our work lives? Use the internet, use internal social networks, use web-based town halls, meetings, et cetera, to share information and engage with our employees. I especially liked what Reginald was just speaking about, the mobile connectivity. Many of us are accessing Facebook and Instagram on our phones. Why not be able to connect with our work community in that way as well? So the third step in informing to engage, I think, is in branding your program. Give it a good, solid brand. We've got a couple of examples. Just like the 12th man on your team, your VOC program is now a member of your team. And we want to give it a brand, give it a name, call it something. There's some examples here, Fans for Life or VIP. Create a slogan or a tagline that brings your program to life and engage your team, your entire team, in the process. And I have two examples here. One is Procter & Gamble, which have actually taken their branding external to their company and exposing their initiative to their clients, their Voice of the Customer initiative. And the example at the bottom is Linden, which is a freight shipping company out of Alaska. They gave their program a face and a voice. They call him Larry Linden, and they have given him bobbleheads through the company. He's got paraphernalia. He's even got a saying, so people around their company can be heard saying, as Larry Linden would say, "Sure, we can do that," because they want that to be the image and the strategy of their customer experience team. So the third step in this process of empowering our employees would be to empower our VOC team to be extensions, or empower our employees to be extensions of our VOC team. We want to do that by expanding our listening, not just listening to the voice of the customer, but even as Reginald showed, listening to the voice of the employee, the voice of the field. We also want to let the engagement drive innovation through our organization. And as we also just heard, we want to make sure that we celebrate success. So one example of listening and listening deeper, Rachel mentioned Best Buy quite a bit. Best Buy has a program where they listen to the voice of the customer through the employee. And there are lots of organizations out there that are beginning to do that, especially in a retail capacity where they have handhelds or kiosks through their stores where they can enter immediate information about customer interactions or issues that may arise. I see this in quite a few restaurants as well where people are moving to handheld devices. But this basically enables the employee to continually surface issues and make a difference for their customers on the spot, as opposed to waiting a week or 2 weeks, or even waiting for that customer to maybe or maybe not answer a Voice of the Customer survey. So another way to empower our employees to be our VOC team extensions is to let the process drive innovation. So in addition to branding our program, many organizations have developed ways to celebrate teams and achievements. And this one is an example of a Viva Customer Cup, where they actually have a company-wide improvement initiative where teams compete for this cup to see who's come up with the best product or process improvement initiative. So this is an extremely engaging process. You can see people holding the cup up, great big celebrations, and we're basically inspiring the behavior that we want to see in people. And next, as we said before, we want to make sure we celebrate success. So as Reginald just said to us, what gets rewarded gets done. And this is an example. I was actually at a conference recently, and I had a chance to speak to some representatives from Macy's, and they shared with me the Macy's Everyday Magic program that they have, their strategy and initiative. And it does use an online portal for people to enter information. It's peer-to-peer recognition, and it is used very widely through the organization. They use it for their peers. They use it to recognize their bosses. They use it to recognize cross-functionally, and it does reward the behaviors that we want to continue to see. I worked with another company, another financial institution, that did something similar. They had a desktop program that allowed them to enter peer recognition, improvement suggestions through the form of a survey and gather feedback that way. So as we come to a close, I just wanted to leave us with a final thought, and that is that engagement is contagious. Basically, the excitement from the programs that we create and from the engagement that we'll create in our employees, our 12th man, the front line, it is contagious, and it will spread to help us build a network of engaged, informed, and empowered employees that help us deliver our VOC strategy. Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy. That was really informative, and we have a lot of questions to go through. I just want to remind everyone that if you do have any questions for Stacy or Reginald, to please submit them in the chat box on the bottom left-hand side of your screen. So since we're running close to the top of the hour, let's get started with the Q&A. Actually, this is both for Stacy and Reginald, so if you don't mind, Reginald, you can start, and then Stacy, you can go next, is how are you measuring success?
Yes, actually, that's a great question. So there are obviously two ways of looking at it. From our standpoint, in terms of our enterprise social network, we have tons of metrics in terms of usage, in terms of downloads, in terms of connectivity, in terms of questions asked, questions answered, number of participants, number of individuals who join very specific communities. But that's all the sort of the metrics around the use of the community itself. Again, what's critical is that we begin to change behavior and begin to change the way that we're interacting with our customers. And so at that point, actually, that's one of the challenges for us. In other words, it's hard to be able to say, listen, because an individual was able to learn this and be able to connect this dot to that dot, that they actually took a very specific and different action, so from a tactical standpoint. So for us, at the end of the day, what's our metric that we're driving is customer loyalty. We're taking a lot of different actions to improve that, but we know that employee engagement is going to be a key driver, and so this is one element of the overall program that we're measuring as it relates to our customers. Because at the end of the day, just doing lots of internal things doesn't really matter if our customers don't see a difference, and so that's where we're measuring our loyalty along with all the associated metrics.
Great. Stacy, do you want to go next?
So I think that I'll begin with agreeing with Reginald in that at the end of the day, as VOC professionals, as customer experience professionals, where we want to end up measuring our success is with the improvements with our customers. So we want to see that translate to higher loyalty, higher satisfaction, easier ways of doing business. I think when it comes to measuring the levels of engagement, there are lots of ways to look at that as well. So success and whether or not you were able to engage your employees. You can work with your HR departments and work with folks who do to do employee engagement surveys and really understand internally what are the issues. Reginald mentioned voice of the field, voice of the employee. Are we uncovering that? Are we understanding that? Understanding how that links to the voice of the customer? And what we're doing, are we providing the proper tools? And we can also look at the involvement in our initiatives. So how are our employees involved? What are they saying? What are they doing in their actions? Do we have people who are actively involved? Do we have people who are actively posting? Do we have people who are passionate about the voice of the customer and the voice of the employee?
Great, thank you. Reginald, this question is for you. What is the largest issue to tackle in a deployment?
For us again, once you get past sort of this concern about sharing information, right? And again, we address that by just going slowly, by sharing little bits of information here and there, and then all of a sudden it's sort of like turning up the fire on a boiling pot of water. Next thing you know, we're sharing all sorts of information. But aside from that, it's getting the executive buy-in. Quite frankly, it's not a matter of whether or not they'll say yes to the pilot and yeah, let's give this a try. It's first of all getting on their calendars to be able to have these sorts of conversations because they're not exactly sure what you're coming in to propose. But then B, getting them to actually participate, getting them to post information, getting them to ask questions or answer questions online. And when you're able to get them with their busy schedules to fully participate, then the rest of your organization will follow. Without them, it's really an uphill battle.
Okay, great. Stacy, how do you identify customer experience champions in your organization?
I think there are lots of ways to do that, and I think there are lots of ways to talk about or find our champions. I always go back to an example years ago in my life where an employee was so passionate about how we treated our customers. I was working on the client side at the time for a financial institution, that they were literally standing on a desk, yelling about after hours, yelling about how we can, what we can do better for this employee. That is an inspired, engaged employee, and that person actually went over and started working in kind of the research piece of it. But those champions, those people who are influencers through the organization, when they speak, your E.F. Huttons, dating myself, but when they speak, people listen. And that is not necessarily a title thing. That is, they have influence and they're knowledgeable and they're passionate. So those people kind of rise to the top. And I think that, as in Reginald's example, your executives, your managers, they're obvious and they stand out and we know who they are. They have comments and opinions. They are posting on our social media or they're tweeting about the organization. They're advocating for the company. Those are the people that are going to be your champions. And you want those champions to represent all levels within your organization.
Okay, great. Thank you. Reginald, in your presentation you spoke about Learn, Share, Do. Is the Learn section available to all employees, or can you identify a certain group?
For our particular, for our community, the Learn section is open to everyone. I think one of the things one of the things that we did, which is kind of cool in terms of the way the tool works here, is that we actually create what we call membership, right? In other words, even though you can sort of go and see certain information or certain things you can or cannot do unless you join that community. Now, joining a community it's like a one-click button. I want to be part of this community. So it's not that big a deal. But what it does is it forces a sense of connectedness and a sense of ownership of that particular topic. And for us, the customer experience community is that. And so if you join a community, even if you don't join the community, you can see the information, but you can't really participate unless you're a part of that community. I think I liken it to, I guess, how on Facebook, if you're able to, you can see certain individuals' profile, but you can't actually, their information doesn't show up on your space, and you can't really post anything to their page unless you are a friend. Well, we actually have that as well within SanDisk. We have sort of a friend-like kind of a ability to make sure that individuals are connected to our communities.
Thank you. So a great question just came in for both of you. Have you seen any research that shows links to the profit? Bottom line is really what the executives want to see.
I'll
let
jump
Stacy
in
take the hard
quickly.
question.
I'll jump in quickly to say, it's a much longer answer, but basically yes. There are linkage studies that can be done between employee engagement, employee satisfaction, and customer loyalty and engagement and satisfaction, and then link that to profitability, so that you can understand kind of that full chain. It's an engagement. It's a longer process, a longer engagement to understand all of those, and obviously you have to have all of those elements in effect. But I think there are also other ways to kind of prove ROI and prove bottom line in the engagement that or the initiatives that we'd like to place. So it may be in looking at saved productivity. It may be finding ways to measure saving a customer, and we can save a customer by training our employees better or giving them these tools, etc. There are different ways to look to find the bottom line or find ways to prove ROI on our initiatives and programs.
Okay, and Reginald? I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
I just would agree with Stacy that at the end of, there are, and someone were to contact either one of us, there are always all these studies out there, whether they're Gartner or Forrester or any of the places. There are lots of online places where you can see where there's a straight line between employee engagement to improving customer experience to driving loyalty, and then that loyalty turning into the bottom line. For us here at SanDisk, it's not necessarily all about wallet or market share, although that is a big driver. For us, it's about profitability, having more profitable customers. And if we're actually able to make things easier for our customers and for our internal employees overall by having more engaged employees, that pays off in terms of productivity as well as profitability, and we're beginning to see that.
Excellent. Well, thank you again both for a wonderful presentation. We are getting close to the top of the hour, and we are sensitive to people's schedules. I'd like to thank you again, Stacy Neville and Reginald Chapman, and thank you for all of our attendees. As a reminder, the recording will be available after the webinar, so please stay tuned for a link to that within the next 24 to 48 hours. Thank you again, and I hope you have a wonderful day.